Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. We are back with another Neurodiversity Stories with your host. My name is Darren Clark, and a massive thank you to everyone that joins this live or watches this on the replay. We have another incredible show for you, and it's a special one today. We not only do we have my incredible guest, Siobhan Elliott, who is a phenomenal person, and please do stick around to hear the conversation that we're going to have. But it's very special because this will be the last show, but not forever, the last show of the season. So season one, which would be strange because we've done so many episodes before, but it'll be the end of the season one. And the reason for this is so that we can kind of refresh and then we will come back bigger and better. So I want to say a massive thank you to all of our previous guests, all of our previous sponsors, and also to you, the people from our global audience that we've created over the past many years that we've been doing Neurodiversity Stories. So a massive thank you to everyone that has joined. As always, please let us know in the comments where you are tuning in from. We have hit so many different countries, too many countries to name, but we have done some phenomenal work. So we will be speaking with Siobhan Elliott. We will be talking about empowering women. We'll be talking about menopause, and we'll also be talking about her ADHD late diagnosis. So this is going to be an absolute incredible conversation. So please do drop into the chat where you're joining in from and let us know. Also, as well as we talk about sponsors, I want to say a massive thank you to our current sponsors, Sweet Social Media. These are just a few words from them, so please do check them out. Are you looking for a social media company that hits the sweet spot? Then please do check out our sponsors, Sweet Social Media, who do incredible work from online training to in-person training to running and managing your social media marketing to get you seen by many more businesses. If you comment below Sweet Social Media, you will get a 15% discount on one of their packages. Please do check them out, and thank you so much for being our sponsors. So guys, that's Sweet Social Media. Please be sure to check them out. The link will be in the bio. Again, let us know where you're tuning in from. So without further ado, I would love to bring on our very special guest, our last guest for season one, an incredible person, Siobhan Elliott. So please do make her feel incredibly welcome as we welcome Siobhan. Good morning, Siobhan, and a massive thank you for taking time out of your incredibly busy schedule to speak with us today.
Oh, thank you, Darren, and thank you for such a lovely introduction. And I feel very honoured to be here.
The honour is all ours. Siobhan, if I can jump straight in, if that's okay, just with regards to we talk about we've had lots of guests on here talk about dyslexia and ADHD, dyscalculia and dyspraxia. ADHD is a big thing for you. What was that kind of turning point? Because we mentioned that it was a kind of a late. You mentioned to me it was a late diagnosis, but so it's a late. What was that experience like for you? If you don't mind sharing.
Yeah, of course. So it really was a very late diagnosis. I was diagnosed last July, and I turned 55 a couple of months before that. And it's funny because people talk about late diagnosis as being maybe age 30 or 28. And I'm thinking, well, this is very late, extremely late diagnosis. And this came about because I've been, obviously I hang out with a load of other business owners who are my age and maybe younger, a bit older. And one person in particular, Emma Worley, she heads up a very big community for women business owners, shared her experience very openly with all of us. And then I met other women. Other women were going, well, yeah, me too. And she started up a new community for women with ADHD in business. And at that point, I was a maybe ADHD. To coin the name, that's the name from my ADHD coach, Charlotte Dover, I was beginning to think, oh, well, I do that. I experienced that. It was like joining all the dots together. Yeah.
Was that the kind of like a light bulb moment when you started realizing, like you mentioned, oh, I do that, I do that, I do that.
Yeah.
Did it feel like, I always remember my first kind of realization of understanding the word dyslexia, and
Yeah.
it was the age of 35, 36, I think it was, and it was that moment when I felt that it was the first time that someone was speaking to me, like really speaking to me and understanding. And it was one of those moments, they do these cartoons where someone sort of goes off and daydreams about something. That
Mm,
it just felt like everything had paused, and suddenly I was listening to this information. I was thinking, oh, why didn't I know this before?
yeah. Yeah. And I think it takes you off. If you're like me, you go away and read about it. And I do that typically, ADHD thing of hyper focusing on things,
Did,
and researching. Yeah.
did you find, I speak to a lot of people before, and they mention, if someone was diagnosed straight away, if you broke your leg, for instance, they would say, okay, the process is we need to put it into plaster, and then after so much time, we then reassess it, and then it gets fixed. With the diagnosis, did you feel that you had to do a lot of? I mean, you're obviously, but someone that would loves to research. I take it
Mm,
you're someone who loves to research anyway.
totally. Yeah.
But
Yeah.
did you feel that you had to kind of start researching yourself to really kind of understand it more? And I know we're continuously still learning about it, but did you feel that just because the diagnosis was there, it didn't answer all the questions?
Yeah. I suppose it was a bit like you pass your driving test, but then you learn how to drive.
Brilliant analogy.
Um, I needed that diagnosis. I just needed the validation and the knowing so that I could work with it and start the acceptance, because I think for a lot of people, it's a lot to accept, it's a lot to swallow, it's a lot to take on board, because we've been beating ourselves up, we've been criticized our whole life, we've been told you're this or you're that, we've been labeled. So I really needed to start to research and to meet people and to chat with people, and I've chatted with various ADHD specialists. So yeah, the diagnosis was there. I tried the medication route, which I didn't like, because for me, I think so much about healing and acceptance is about your lifestyle, and finding ways to live. You've got to think about your nutrition, your hydration. You've got to really support yourself on every level in a very holistic way. And I'm a holistic health practitioner as well as being a VA. So I've just sort of turned all that back on me and thought, what do I need to do? Instead of dishing it out to everybody else, I've got to actually do this myself and really walk my talk.
Absolutely, and it's a wonderful thing to say, and I guess we don't think sometimes, what are our triggers of this? How are we helping? And I mean triggers. It could be food, or it could be the environment that we put ourselves in. It could be, willing or not willing in that aspect, whether it's work environment, personal, or friends, or whatever those things are. And I think you're right. Is if I'm right in saying that, to understand these triggers, or understand these environments that you put in, or understand what your diet looks like, or understand the rest periods that you're given, you're given to yourself. They're so important, aren't they? To uh, you know for someone to be able to manage it.
Totally, because you need a framework, and also you need a framework that works for you as an individual. So it's the working out. Like I've always been one of those hangry people, when you're hungry and you get irritable. So being hungry, allowing myself to get hungry, allowing myself to get thirsty, which is quite hard because interoception, which is your sense of your basic needs, like feeling like in your body, feeling and knowing you're hungry, feeling and knowing you need to go to the loo, even that you need a drink. Um, those can be really difficult things for people with ADHD and maybe other people with different kinds of neurodiversity. Meeting our basic needs, and this is why I set myself timers. We were
Yeah,
chatting about timers
we
before
did
this.
before we came on. We
Mm.
spoke about the timer side of it, and what are your kind of strategies, that some of your strategies that you've learned to kind of help And we mentioned the timer side of it. I know I mentioned,
Mm.
you know, I continuously use my phone and asked to put on a timer for different things just to kind of get me back into the main focus of things. What have you learned some kind of strategies to kind of help?
Yeah, but so something I've been doing anyway, but I've further tailored it for myself is my morning routine. So I don't know if you've heard of a book called The Miracle Morning at
I
all.
haven't, but I'm gonna
Mm,
I'm gonna check it
It's
out.
really interesting, Darren. But being so it's quite prescriptive, and being a neurodivergent person, I don't like that because I really hate being told what to do. So I always make my own version of things and do it my way. So so what I do, I practice mindfulness every day. I've studied mindfulness and I do meditation. So in the morning I'll do a meditation. I'll have this is my essential first thing of the day is my huge pot of hot water. So I mainline hot water. I just sip, sip, sip all day long, rehydrate the brain. And I do journaling. So this is my journal. I've actually written down a few notes in case I forget what to say today. So I journal, and what else do I do? Gratitude practice.
How does that? I mean, those are all incredible, and
Yeah,
those are something that I do, but I don't obviously.
yeah,
I need to have a more of a routine to be able to do those routines more, if that makes sense. But
yeah.
meditation for me has been a complete game changer in finding peace and finding enabling me to slow down and really kind of live in the moment. If I once I get into that kind of meditation side of it, it's really for someone who has such a busy mind and so much going on, like everyone, you know, to feel that element of meditation, to be able to, you know, to be able to carry that out is a game changer. And that's something I don't know why I don't do more. I'd love to be able to do that every single day and put into plan. But I feel I need things to kind of distract me, but then calm me. And I felt that meditation is something
Mm,
that really, really has helped for countless reasons. Like,
yeah.
for, for instance, like my routine to try and on an evening to try and calm my ADHD brain, so to speak, is I watch. There's 4 episodes, space programs that Brian Cox he's created, and these were I think like the universe or something, and it's something that I've watched. I mean, he's done so many shows at other times, but these 4 shows that he's done um, I go to bed, I put the iPad on, put my AirPods in, just the one ear, and I will watch it. And within 6, 7 minutes, I'm asleep. I mean, I don't know over these amounts of many years I've watched it, if I've ever watched the whole program. I don't know if I've ever watched the whole program,
I
but
love
there's something
that.
about that routine, his voice, very soothing voice, and the actual program. I don't know what it is, but that has become like a ritual in the sense for me, and it gets me off to sleep no end.
I love that.
So
That
it's
is
just yeah,
so
it's been
powerful.
it's 4 episodes, and just really kind of just thought to myself, that's something that it's become a routine and almost like a comfort thing. But and I can remember watching it and I thinking, oh, have I seen this bit? I can't remember this bit. So it's almost like I watch it, but I switch off. But yeah, it's a
Mm.
few little strategies that's helped within this.
I can really relate to that, and I get all of my clients actually to do to do with their children if they have children. I really encourage them to go to something like Insight Timer, which is it's a fantastic app, and they have bedtime stories, and they have bedtime stories for children and bedtime stories for grown-ups. And because I think for a lot of us, as you say, it's a comfort. It's that word comfort.
Yeah, I think anything that can kind of I guess, yeah, make you feel like for me, I know when I can kind of switch off for that. That's almost like that. It's okay, Darren. You can switch off. You can, you know, this is your time to just kind of relax. Otherwise, I will, you know, be in a situation where my brain is just continuously working
Mm,
overdrive. And as you mentioned, hyper focus in this sense. So if I was to try and start a project before I went to bed, all I would be thinking about is, I mean, yeah,
Done
is
that. Yeah.
So what got you into, if you don't mind me asking, what got you into the incredible line of work that you're doing? And now it's amazing that you've been able, after kind of the ADHD diagnosis, that you've really kind of been able to help your ADHD. What kind of got you into that kind of line of I guess lifestyle? If you use
Yeah. The holistic lifestyle, healthy lifestyle. All my work, it's funny, when I look back, all of my work is very much aligned with my own experiences. So it's as though my life purpose is to teach through experience.
yeah.
And I don't know, have you ever done your life path numbers? Have you ever done numerology? I can't even say that. Numerology.
I've done I don't know if I've done neurology. I'm also a Reiki practitioner.
Oh, so
So
am I.
uh, see, I don't know I shared that, but I I am. So I deal with energy in that side of it. But I genuinely feel I don't know if I've done numerology. I know of it. I know of it. I know how fascinating it is.
It's really interesting. If you can figure out how to do your life path number, it can be very revealing, because I did mine when I started working. Oh, here comes my dog. Sorry, got to let the dog in. He's just come back from his walk. Hello, darling. I started working with a brilliant business coach who's become a friend, called Suzanne Mountain. And Suzanne Mountain, as one of my first tasks, she got me to work out my life path number. And I was like, really? What is this? I didn't know anything about it, but it's adding together. I think it's adding together the numbers of your date of birth. So I did that, and I went, oh, 33, master teacher. It's the Christ number. It's a very, very wonderful and amazing, like the double numbers are very special in numerology. And it's the master healer teacher. So, wow, I've kind of followed that path without knowing it.
Or subconsciously you knew that, and that's what's drawn you into that.
So I really believe that everything I do is aligned with my life purpose, which is to come here and teaching and healing, which sounds very lofty. But so I had very ill health. I think probably my ADHD tendencies led me to a place of, I did have what I now know was probably an ADHD burnout, and it was a huge one, huge burnout, and I was very ill. And I had reflexology, and so I'd wanted to be a therapist. I dipped into it like years before that and thought about crystal healing, massage, aromatherapy, and nothing really grabbed me. I didn't know about Reiki at that time, but I knew about reflexology, and I had reflexology at the hospital. And it took one session and just talking with the most inspirational reflexology practitioner, and I kind of came home, and I knew like you said, the light bulb, I knew something had changed. It's like that song. Do you know the song "Defying Gravity" from Wicked?
Yep.
I won't sing it, but she says something has changed within me. Something is not the same, and it was like that. And she also says, I'm through by playing with the rules of others' games. And that was when I decided I needed to leave the corporate world, because it was killing me, literally.
Bless you.
So all this striving and perfectionism was killing me. It was really killing me. I never felt like I was enough, and I was doing enough, and I was striving. Yeah.
When you mentioned about burnout and not being enough, and and the tiresome kind of, I guess, the wheel that continuously spins, within this side of it. And it's interesting, and yet quite sad in a way that, the many people I've spoken to, they've either experienced the burnout, or they're going through the burnout, or they're going through the burnout and they don't know they're going through the burnout at the moment, because they're just hanging on and just from pure exhaustion. What are the kind of when you mentioned about you went through your kind of burnout, were there kind of telltale signs of that, and of knowing that actually I know you mentioned about getting out of the kind of corporate sector, but were there kind of signs of actually I need to stop, I need to do something here?
Yeah, it's the feeling. I know it when I get the feeling that I'm being driven by something that's just going too fast, like I'm on a wheel, it's just going too fast. My speech speeds up, my thoughts speed up, and it just feels, like you feel like you're in the train and it's about to go over the cliff. That awful momentum and that feeling that you're going to crash. And I get the signs now, but I actually recognize the signs, and I'll go, "Ooh." Well, my husband will say it, he'll notice because he's now a lot more aware, and he'll go, "You're doing too much. You're doing too much." And it's a theme because I'll take on more and more and more things to fill that space of the not being good enough. I think, yeah, it's like trying to fill a hole, fill a hole, fill a hole, do more, be more.
That feeling of not being enough and not good enough and people pleasing and always thinking someone's thinking bad of you, or
Yeah, yeah,
uh, those feelings, uh, they don't go away, and
no.
they're something that, like you said, has to be kind of managed. And I guess I remember speaking to someone before, and they said, Darren, you'll never please everyone. Depending on what it is you want
Mm,
to do in the world, if you want to make a mark, you want to change something, you'll never please everyone. Because whatever you do is someone's going to either approve or they're going to disapprove, and it's trying to manage that, isn't it, in your
yes.
mind? Because the last thing you want to do is upset people. Uh, but genuinely, you can just upset by people by just being you, and that's quite a sad thing, really, isn't it?
It's a really sad thing, and I think social media has shown us that you could say anything at all, and somebody somewhere can choose to take that as offense, and then suddenly, this rejection, sensitive dysphoria, this hating feeling that we've upset people can just go. And it's very freeing when you do realize that you're not there to when it's not our job to please everybody, and also that not everybody's our people, not everyone is for us,
Yeah.
not everyone's going to choose us for their team. Yeah.
I think it would be uh, it it can be quite exhausting, as you mentioned,
Yes,
to try and
yes, it can.
please others, because you're always going to, like we mentioned, to please that person, you're going to upset that person. To please that group, you're going to upset that group. So there has to be kind of a mindset around that. If, as long as you're doing something that you believe in and that is good and that you're not hurting anyone in any way, shape, or form,
Mm,
then genuinely, then that should be enough. And it is trying to find those strategies, I guess, of being able to deal with that, in your mind. How for me, it was having a strong enough purpose and a strong enough goal to be able to do what it is that, I'm very goal driven, I'm very purpose driven, I'm like yourself. So, but I have to be mindful that not everyone works at the level that I work at, and that's been a learning curve for me over the many years in different scenarios that I've been in, that I felt. So it's just trying to understand how others work, and how you can work with others, and how you can, I guess, be and still be yourself within that side of it. And
yeah. And I think you start with the being yourself. And this is, so I was saying, so a friend of mine, who I've met through business, and we really kind of sort of buddy and help each other. And our mutual favorite saying is, "Be yourself, everyone else is taken," from
love
Oscar
it.
Wilde.
Yeah.
And if that is, I've got it on my phone. I've got a picture of a pug in a unicorn suit, and the words "Be yourself, everyone else is taken," because that's like a mantra for me. I think if you start from that place of complete authenticity and just being yourself, and being yourself in your brand, and being visible, and not ashamed of how you are. That's how you find your people. You know, everyone talks about finding your ideal client avatar and all of that. And just showing up as yourself. Yeah, you
Well,
are your brand. That shines through, doesn't it? And then the people who
absolutely.
want to work with you, the people who see Darren think, oh God, yeah, that's my people. You know, we have truly got to show up. You can't be one of these faceless accounts. You know, you go on Instagram, they don't show themselves on their grid ever. And there are brands who do that, and that's intentional.
Yeah,
But people want to see you, because how can they know, like, and trust you
absolutely.
otherwise if you're not showing up?
You're absolutely right. The you know the faceless brands, I guess, you know, the people, you know, every in this day and age where, you know, we like to, humans like to see the behind the scenes, you know, peel behind the you know, the canopy of, you know, the pull back the curtain and
Mm.
see who is actually orchestrating this business, and what do their values do, and how do they align, and how you can, you know, because it's not just about the brand, like you said, anymore. It's not just buying the can of pop or the certain these things. It's what's the message behind, and I think that's something that's really kind of leveled the playing field of when years ago, when it was huge, you know, corporate organizations and then small business. And I think small
Mm.
business now have a huge, a lot more power. I use terminology power, but a lot more say
Mm.
in
Mhm.
connecting with their customers, their clients, and their people, and finding their communities by just showing up and being themselves. And I don't think you realize how many people you help by doing that, because not everyone's going to reach out and say, oh, you know, I love this. Thank you
Mm.
for sharing that message. It really helped. There will be a majority of people that do this, but it's that pebble effect, isn't it? It's the amount of people that you've helped along the way that you know that you've helped, but they won't tell you that you've helped. And that's fine.
Yeah,
And I think
doesn't
that's
matter.
being your authentic self.
Yeah, and you will get the people, the people who will lurk without commenting. They may not ever comment or like a post, but years later, they might just send you a note out of the blue, or they may come as a client. They may say, wow, I've been watching you for 7 years, or I've had your business card in my drawer for 7 years, or whatever.
I,
And I just love what you're doing.
and that's a magical moment. I remember I
Mm.
did it twice. I did a 365-day vlog. So I thought to myself, I kept seeing these people doing these vlogs, you know, video diary every single day,
Gosh.
and they would do them, and then they gap to kind of 10 days, and they'd stop. They'd say, oh, we're going to be vlogging for a year, and or vlogging for 6 months, and then after 10 days they'd stop. And because I have this kind of competitive nature in my, you know, thinking, oh, you know, what if I just vlogged for a week? And I was thinking, what if I vlogged for a month? What if I vlogged for a year, every single day? Could I do this? And I did, and I did it twice actually, over a couple of different periods of time. And it was funny because I did a whole year of vlogging. So every single day, without fail, wherever I was, whatever I was doing, I vlogged. And it was many years later, and I was at a business expo show, and someone came up to me. It's like 5 years after I'd done it, and they said, "Oh, you're the vlog guy," and I was like,
Mm.
"What?" And they're like, "Oh, I loved your vlog. You know, I loved you. This," but I never knew because they didn't ever comment. We never connected, but they
Mm.
just knew that that was the thing. And I think that's, you know, not saying you have to do a vlog every day, but that authentic self of putting yourself out there has connected with an individual or several individuals, and I think that's the magical moment.
It's a really magic moment. And if you do that without the ego and the expectation of getting 20,000 new fans,
Yeah,
this is where things like that will happen. That's really magical.
I, I've always we've created lots of businesses in the year over the years, and some's been really successful, and some not really got off the ground, and some's, you know, some's been great. And there's been so many learnings, you know, from that. I love the magical side. You know, when people say, actually, we haven't got a huge following on socials, or we haven't got this, or I'm not as confident as this. The magical moment is when you're being able to create something when there isn't a huge amount of audience watching. And I think that's
Mm.
because the minute the huge audience comes on, your demeanor and the pressure changes, because you actually think, actually, now I need to provide for this amount in a certain way to be able to do this. And yes,
Mm.
there's certain planning and stuff like this, but that I don't think people realize at the start, there's such a magical moment where you're just in this infancy of creating something because that's you and that's what you believe and that's what you want to do. And then, if you want the growth, you can get the growth. But I think that it all comes down to that authenticity, isn't it? That being yourself. And I know it can be quite vulnerable. You can feel quite vulnerable putting yourself out there, but I think it's people don't realize that magical time when they're doing these things.
And I think a lot of people say to me, I couldn't do what you do. I couldn't put myself out there. You kind of can. You can. And if you do, it's so rewarding and it's so lovely when people say thank you for doing that thing.
Absolutely. And because you've come from a place of doing it purely, like I said, from because that's, you just want to give and you want to help. When someone rewards you by, taking the time or thanking you for this, that is a very special moment, because you think, actually, that's not genuinely, what I put out, but I really do, I honor you thank me for that. And I think that's beautiful.
Yeah.
Siobhan, we mentioned when we spoke before about kind of the ADHD, and we also mentioned about the incredible work that you're doing from empowering women and the like I said, outstanding stuff that you're doing. We mentioned and touched on the topic of menopause. What could we kind of just have a little conversation around that side of it? Because we were inundated with lots of comments and on different social channels of people relating to your story, and people really kind of embracing this, and it's not spoken about as much. So I just wondered if we can kind of just touch on to that subject, if that's okay.
Yeah, of course. It's a funny time, because with the hormonal fluctuations that are happening, this is where neurodivergent traits in women can kind of rear their head, and you don't necessarily put the two together. And I didn't, and nobody said to me, "Oh, do you think such and such?" So I never made that connection. And ADHD in women and girls, obviously, because we don't have different hormones from men and different hormonal levels, does show up in different ways. And we are seeing, I don't know if you've seen recently, Nadia Sawala and Zoe Ball, among other women, who are sort of my age, they are menopausal, perimenopausal, have come out and said, hey, I've got ADHD. And this is no coincidence, because that's just got missed, because we don't always act in the same way as men who have ADHD. It can show in different ways. It's an interesting, it tends to sort of come to a head in a not entirely lovely way for us mentally and emotionally when our hormones are dwindling and sort of fluctuating.
And you mentioned, the fact of kind of with the ADHD, you didn't go down the kind of you spoke about the kind of the medication side of it, and then actually said from a holistic point of view, this is what I'm going to be able to do and manage the diet and lifestyle and everything else, which is definitely incredible way of really kind of understanding how to best serve your body and in that side of it. With regards to kind of the menopause side of it and the ADHD, is that something now you have to kind of, I guess, manage, I guess, differently in a way, or is it still the way that you manage all other aspects of your life?
So yeah, I think I mentioned to you in our when we were talking before we set this up, it was a very strange time, because really things came to a head for me. I think probably the pandemic prompted things to come to a head. I wasn't able to see my clients here. You'll see I've got my gong. I've got my gong singing bowls. I have clients here. I'm doing reflexology. I'm doing Reiki. So yeah, it was an unusual time, because but as I said to you, it burned a hole in my confidence, because that was taken away from me. And my work is a huge part of my life. It's my life purpose. It's a part of my identity. So I think with those things falling away, I definitely had a long dark night of the soul and a real crisis of confidence and identity. and not knowing about ADHD at the time.
With regards
Yeah,
to the confidence side of it,
yeah.
which is, no, we talk about the kind of pandemic and the fact that, because your business, your lifestyle, let's just call, how you help and serve, people. That's very, it's face to face, it's energy, it's very much, being in the room with someone, and having that taken away for such a long period of time. I can imagine it's because that's what you live and breathe. That's what you're
It is.
incredibly great, great at. What you mentioned, that was kind of, quite a dark moment within that side of it.
Mm.
How did you be able to kind of navigate? Did you still try and practice in that way? Or, I mean, I know it's difficult.
Yeah, I I did a bit. I did. I created some recordings. I don't have the most fabulous recording equipment, but I did some recordings of sound baths for people, and I suppose it was like a kind of vlogging. I created some lives on Facebook and then put them onto YouTube talking about like the real basics, like how to breathe, because obviously everybody was very, very stressed. So I did some clips on how to breathe. I did some clips on loving kindness meditation, metta, which is about the connection we have with ourselves and the whole of life. Self-compassion, acceptance, all the things that I knew people needed at that time. So I did sort of keep things going a bit.
Which
Yeah.
would have been, on one aspect, really, really needed for people at that period of time to be able to
Mm,
hear, you sharing this. And on the other side, it's for you to think, actually, I'm really struggling, but I
mm,
need to be able to do this. So it's incredible that you continue to serve in that way and be able to help
yeah.
and support, because, like I said, that was a real, tough time for everyone in that sense. And for you to, when you're feeling, the lack of confidence and all of these things, I think it's incredible that you were able to think, okay, so I need to do this, and this, and help, even if you weren't
Mm,
in the right frame of mind, so to speak. Am I right in
yeah.
saying that?
Yeah. And I think obviously it helped me as well.
Yeah,
I won't just pretend it was a completely all about everybody else. I was part of that, and yeah, just sharing. I hope I was sharing my vulnerability and normalizing that it is okay to feel really scared and not okay. And yeah, you got to normalize these things. We're all vulnerable, aren't we? We
we
all
are. We are.
struggle.
You mentioned breathing, which is something, I I'm thinking about it now. Just mention the word
Yeah.
breathing. Suddenly, I'm
Remember
like,
to breathe.
I always remember I was doing a video and I was walking and I was doing this video and I was talking, and someone said, that I was someone commented underneath, "Oh, you're a bit unfit" or something, which was,
Mm,
very nice comment. And what I found
mm,
is, I was thinking, I'm not, because I was running, I was keeping, fit and exercising. But what I didn't realize, it was the nerves and the anxiety or something was making
yeah,
me feel like short of breath whenever I was speaking, and
yeah,
I couldn't grasp why I was not able to really fully breathe. And I've done this whenever I've done, like, the early years when I was doing sort of keynote talks or talks. I remember talking, you mentioned about talking fast, and I was like, and I felt like I was just sort of breathing from here and not here or wherever it is. um,
yeah.
it- but how important is being able to just breathe, but in a controlled, is it a controlled manner, a relaxed manner? What would you say?
It's an art. It is an art to breathe, and I also sing. I've sung my whole life, and I'm not having singing lessons at the moment, but I have had singing lessons from a couple of different teachers for long periods of time, and it's all about your breath. So it's all about the diaphragm and the belly, and it's all about the larynx not being up here. When people talk a bit like that, and it's also that. Or from the nose. A lot of people like the Disney voices. It's quite kind of nasal. So it's all about making making your larynx, keeping your larynx low and relaxed. It's where your tongue is in your mouth. It's your diaphragm. breathing is such an art, it's such a science. And I won't pretend I'm an authority on it by any means.
No, but you're a lot more knowledgeable than I am within this. But it's so interesting to because I remember someone saying to me, you know, I never really fully breathe, and then when I've done some breathing exercises in the past, and I felt actually it hurts to breathe, or you know, it really is quite strenuous. And I'm thinking this is just something that we do every day, you know. And then there's breathing, and then there's breathing, and I'm sure there's so many, probably a science behind it, or you know, health benefit or something behind it.
Yes,
That kind
there
of,
is.
what is it? Does it kind of, what would you say the benefits of that?
So it's in something like yoga, they talk about the breath being the bridge between the body and the mind. And of course, when you do yoga, you do pranayama, which is breathing. It's breathing exercises. So doing different breathing exercises has different benefits. So there's the alternate nostril breathing, where you're holding, you know, you're switching sides. And I hope no one's watching who's a yoga teacher. I think it's about balancing both sides of your brain.
Yeah.
So doing different breathing exercises, it will detox. So you've got the lion breath, which is a real sort of forcing out stale air. You've got ocean breath, ujjayi breathing. As I say, I'm not I'm not a yoga breathing
No,
expert,
but it's,
particularly box breathing. Yeah, there are different kinds of breathing to help you in different ways, physiologically and mentally.
and
Yeah,
I remember,
the whole thing.
which is absolutely fascinating. I remember watching,
Mm.
maybe it was a YouTube video or for someone, and they were practicing breathing and then holding their breath, and then they would practice this, and the longevity of being able to hold their breath after they'd done these breathing exercises were incredible. Because I was thinking, how can you hold your breath for that long period of time? And we're not asking everyone who's watching this to just start holding their breath. There's a lot
No,
of
please don't.
science behind and practice behind this. But that I was always amazed when I was watching this, thinking, you know, they just could be able to hold their breath for long periods of time after these.
Yeah.
And it wasn't just hold the breath. It was these exercises was phenomenal.
And
Because it's
breath work
incredible.
has become a huge thing. You know, the Wim Hof breathing and
That's probably why
all
someone.
these breathwork teachers who are appearing all over the place. There's a method called the Buteyko method, which my most recent singing teacher, Chloe Spencer, who's an amazing woman, she's an osteopath. She's a vocal osteopath, so she can actually help people with their vocal mechanism to improve their singing and their speech. She's now teaching Buteyko breathing.
Wow.
I feel like I'm name dropping here, but I just know all these
No,
really
please do.
brilliant people.
These
Yeah,
people do incredible stuff. Then please do
they're,
feel free
they're
to name them.
fantastic. Yeah, I've got so many wonderful people who've contributed to everything I am and everything I know.
Do, do you feel that you've found your tribe, your community, the
Yeah,
people?
I really have, and that's so important. And I don't know who said that. It's probably Tony Robbins or someone, about how we are the product of the company we keep, essentially. You know, about how it's so important that we surround ourselves with the right people.
Yeah. And I guess we don't realize that. You know, those moments when people say, you know, to live in the moment, you know, we always bring up the past and we always think in the future, as in, or the other way around, we live in the
Mm.
past and we always, you know, think actually in the future we change, and we don't actually live in the actual moment. And I know we spoke about meditation, and I think that's, for me, it's the moment that I can really feel like I'm in the moment, and I'm not worried about anything else. The only other thing that I feel is, and I'm not using the word escapism, but for me, the only time I can think is when I was doing martial arts. So I used to do martial arts, and
Mm.
the most amazing thing was the fact that you could take your phone and you could lock it away for 2 hours, and you just couldn't. There was no distractions, And at the start of when you do your you do a sort of a minute's worth of kind of short meditation to kind of get yourself into the zone. And you got your head down and you're sort of doing a little bit of a breathing exercise, and then you're ready then for the next 2 hours. And there's endless amounts of things within that. But that minute or minute and a half of doing that and getting myself into that zone, I felt more alive there than ever. It was just this, and it became, I guess, a certain, strategy of being able to do that, to get your mindset, to clear your mind and go, okay, everything else is outside. This is what I'm doing. And I think that it's those moments, aren't they, that you have to really think, how am I living in the moment? How do I catch that thought? How am I able to not just continuously think about all these different things?
Yeah, and you are catching yourself. You're catching yourself. I talk about the monkeys, the mind monkeys, in meditation, who start sort of playing up the moment you sit down to meditate, don't you? But it's catching them and giving them a job to do. Like, I imagine them sitting there with some colouring books, and they're just sitting doing their colouring in, and they're all nice and quiet because they've got something to do, haven't they? So it's just being able to bring the monkeys into order and sit everybody down nicely and chill for a bit.
Have you always been able to meditate, or did you find it more tricky? I find that like you mentioned, the mind monkeys, the initial starting of something, and focus on that has sometimes a little tricky, and then I go into it, and then I'm absolutely, in awe of it. Have you always been able to meditate? I mean, I know that the more you do, the you strengthen your mind, and you've been able to do these things. But have you always been able to meditate?
I can. I do get days where the monkeys are really quite hard work, and they're being very annoying and ADHD and running around. But yeah, it's the intention. It's knowing I have the intention and the desire to do it, and to remind myself of how good it feels. And also, I have delivered courses on meditation to people, and I've even written what my dad calls my pamphlet. Is a little very small book on Kindle. It's actually on Amazon, and it's called From Zero to Zen, and it's under my name. Little plug there. I think it's
we will put the details
£2,
in the
£2 on Amazon, I think. Yeah, where I completely demystify meditation and just say, you don't have to clear your mind, you don't have to eat mung beans, you don't have to go and live in a cave. Just make it work for you in your life, everyday life. It doesn't have to be fancy or anything. Just make it work for you.
That's a brilliant way of looking at it, because we have to think, if I'm going to do a meditation, I think everything else needs to be aligned first. Everything needs to be calm, or everything. When does these things happen?
No. And that's the product of the meditation.
Yeah.
Isn't it? The alignment comes from doing the practice.
Yeah.
It's like saying, I can't do yoga because I'm not bendy. Like, hello, that's why you do yoga. Stop looking for excuses.
Yeah.
Oh, when I'm perfect, when everything's perfect, I'll do such and such. Like people save things for best, don't they? Just do it now.
Yeah,
I think it now.
That is the key. We do continuously think about the future. We continuously think, actually, I'll save that for that, or I won't do that, or I won't go there, or I'll do this. And as if we have this abundance of time that we have, or we'll do it then.
Guaranteed.
It's not. And I think, how important are you? How important are kind of, you mentioned about your morning routines. When did you set those routines up? Because I've got so much admiration for people that have routines. I mean, we all have routines. We all get up. Hopefully, we all get up and shower and brush our teeth, and so have a coffee, or all these. So there's certain routines, and then I see this as people surpass this by creating their own routines, like you mentioned, the very large cup of hot water which you sip, and your journal, and all the. When did you start implementing those things, or is it something that you've you've always just done? What can you recall when you really thought, actually, I'm going to make these a part of my life now?
I think it was someone in my network, and I can't remember who it was, on Facebook, who they must have written about the miracle morning. And I thought, ooh, because one thing I've always struggled with is routine, and not just doing everything willy-nilly slapdash because it's all very exciting and I have to do it now. Driven by that, yeah, my ADHD fizzy brain, as I call it. So I bought the book, and then I started to do it, and then I joined the Facebook group. Then I got really disillusioned because everybody was saying, I get up at 4 and I run 10 miles, and then I do 100 push-ups, and people were being very, very prescriptive about, you must do it. If you don't get up at 4, you're a loser. Which is such a shame,
Absolutely.
because it's not at all what was intended by the writer.
Yeah.
So people were getting very sort of rigid about it. Well, I thought, and left the Facebook group. But I got an accountability buddy called John, from that group, and we have slipped a bit, but we were checking in daily every morning, saying what we'd done, which is great, because accountability and body doubling and all those things are very helpful for me to get me doing stuff.
Absolutely.
So yeah.
I think gratitude as well is a massive thing. You know,
Huge.
I you know, wake up and I always think of three things that I'm grateful for. Say them out loud. And it's amazing once you start realizing what you have and what you're grateful for. And some things might be the most simplest things to you, might be, the most massive things to someone else. Simple things in your mind, you think, oh, shit, it's a simple thing. But generally, that for me is a massive thing. The gratitude is incredibly humbling when you write down three things and you look back in your book over the many, many months and you think, my goodness, I have an abundance of incredible things to be grateful for. And yet you can still write things down. I mean, yeah, you duplicate and things like this, but the things you write down and grateful for is massive. I feel very lucky when I'm to be able to do those gratitude, that those three things every day, to the gratitude. I think it's very rewarding when you can actually realize what it is you have, or what you can do, or what you've done.
It's a huge thing, and I've actually got a little mini 5-day gratitude course, which is free in my on my main website. I've just added a learning section that's in there, and it's just something people can do. They don't need to particularly report in or say how it's gone, but that's something I I wrote that course years ago, and I still have people going, oh, I love your gratitude course, it was so amazing, I loved it, I shared it with my friend. And it can be, and if I'm having a really crummy day and feeling really not good, I'll go, like, if I'm feeling grumpy and I think I don't want to do gratitude because I feel grumpy today, I'll just think about the running water and the fact I have walls and a roof,
Yeah.
and we have heating and we have food, and I have people who love me, and I've got my dog, and it's rained and the garden's growing, and you can just take yourself from that place of real ingratitude and grumpiness to a lovely place quite quickly.
You most certainly can. Siobhan, we're
Yeah.
coming up to the end of our talk, and this is why I love doing these neurodiversity stories, is because we start on one topic and then we go off into another topic, and this has been a beautiful conversation, because what I felt is that when you mentioned about being your authentic self and talking about things, and this is where I feel the conversation's really talked about the incredible work you do, and meditation and gratitude, and we talked about ADHD and everything else as well. But I want to say a massive thank you for taking time out to speak with us today. It's been an absolute pleasure and a joy.
Well, thank you for having me. It's just, I love it when you just jump onto something like this and you feel like you've known the person forever. And I do find this with other neurodivergent people. We just tend to jump straight in there, like there's no small talk. You're straight into the big issues of life, and it's just
Yeah.
amazing.
Siobhan, if people want to connect with you or want to know about the incredible work that you're doing, we will put all your details in the blurb anyway. But how can people connect with you if they want to?
Yeah, I'm very happy for people to find me on LinkedIn, Instagram, Smart Cookie. So I'm Smart Cookie VA and Smart Cookie Holistic. I've just slightly tweaked the names of my account, so the information I may have given you is possibly out of date. But I'll get the right information to you.
Wonderful.
Love to hear from people. Yeah.
And thank you for all the incredible work you do and the people that you serve. And like I said, thank you for being a guest on the show. And we will catch up with you very, very soon.
Marvelous. Thanks, Darren.
You're most welcome. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.
So, guys, that was Siobhan, an incredible guest and an incredible way of wrapping up season 1 of Neurodiversity Stories. So, a massive thank you to everyone that's watched this live, watched this on replay, or watched this on other different social media platforms. A massive thank you to you. And we will be back later on in the year for another Neurodiversity Stories. Take care, guys, and we'll speak soon. Cheers. Bye-bye.